Hello and welcome to another session reviewing the features of the InVivo software that came with your instrumentarium or Sordex 3D imaging system. My name is Jim Liebenstein, and today we're going to talk about setting an implant. As a brief overview of the features of the software. It's not meant in any way to be completely binding here, but I do want to give you a couple of hints and tricks to setting an implant. And this kind of in conjunction with the next session, which is going to be offered on August 14th regarding the implant library and preferences customization. These two programs are going to teach you how to manage your inventory of implants, make it simple to plan your cases, make your workflow as streamlined and as efficient as possible. We'll get started right away. I've got a test case up on screen here in my InVivo software, and we'll jump right to the implant tab here. You'll notice that I have already taken the precaution because the potential implant site or sites here are both mandibular, that I've traced the nerve canal on both sides using the arch section, which is a review from one of the last sessions that we did. You'll notice that we've got two likely cases for an implant, actually probably several in this case. We're going to be working on the mandible today. This particular image was obtained with either the Instrumentarium Orthopantomograph 300 system or the Sordex Cranex 3D system with the optional 6x8 field of view installed on it. The OP300 has it as standard. When we take a look at this case, you'll notice that we don't have an awful lot of height, but from the bottom, the inferior border of the mandible, all the way to the opposing crowns in the maxilla. That's important if we're counting on somebody to be able to take this data and use it to create a manufactured drill guide. It's kind of important that we have the occlusion information here so that we can do the best attempt at making sure that this restoration is not going to fail on the implant that we're setting. I'm going to talk a lot today about the philosophy of crown down restorations, and part of this means that we keep in mind that the implant that we're placing here is designed to support restoration, and restoration is only as good as the success of that implant, and the implant is only going to succeed if the forces that are transmitted through that restoration don't conspire against allowing that thing to work. So we'll take a look at a number of the features of this Anatomage InVivo software that allow us to do a really good job at determining whether or not we're going to be able to have success with the implant that we're setting. Just a couple of months ago, the AAOMR came out in a position paper that they had updated, basically saying that it's a good thing to use cone beam data as cross-sectional information for making sure that your implant is going to succeed. It's shouldn't be the first line of defense here. And in fact, as the inventors of panoramic technology, we kind of believe that your first line of defense should be a panoramic x-ray. But this 3D image is awesome for examining cross-sectional information to make the best, most likely successful implant. I'm going to go ahead and place an implant right now. We're going to go ahead and do it here. We've had some migration of teeth here, but I guess we're going to shoot for a second bicuspid here. What I'm going to do, there's a number of ways of doing this. We can take a look in the 3D and add a single implant just by pressing on this little tab here, or by pressing on the Insert Implant just a duplicate kind of control here up on our toolbar. But if I click on this Add Simple Implant within this 3D Implant Planning tab here, this is what happens. I get a little screen that says, hey, what tooth are you interested in placing? And I'm going to go ahead and choose number 29 here. And you see that there's a number of things that we can go ahead and place from here. There's an implant to support a restoration for a tooth, or we can go ahead and set up a bunch of anchor pins to allow us to custom fit a drill guide very well to the mandible or the maxilla, as the case may be. But when I go ahead and say OK, it's going to bring my custom-made choices for implant for that particular tooth, and I've set that up using the setup program, the preferences up here. Again, this is something that we're going to discuss at great length in the next program on August 14th, but you need to know that you can change this at any time if this isn't the right implant for you, if through the actual process of planning it we find out that that's really not suitable for us, and we can go ahead and change that implant to anything from a big long list of implants within the implant library here. So we can go ahead and set that up to be whatever it is that we want to use. And again, part of what we're going to discuss on the 14th is that customizing this library is an important part of streamlining your process of tailoring things from an inventory management standpoint so that you aren't caught short when you begin to plan an implant. If you know that you like to stock a certain implant for that particular purpose and you have a go-to implant for a certain site, then you can go ahead and program that into your InVivo preferences so that when you are on the fly here and you say, okay, yeah, now I want to plug in number 29 here, you just drag and drop and you know that that's the one that you normally have stocked for that. If you decide that the only implant you're going to stock for anything is a certain manufacturer's 3.9 millimeter by 10, and that's what you have on hand, then you can go ahead and put that in your preferences so that when you drag and drop this thing, that's what shows. Now you see that when I'm planning in this three-dimensional mode, when I pull this into place, it exhibits what Anatomage calls their widget tool and the move widget. The move widget is a really cool way of placing this thing. So if you want to move this thing in three-dimensional space and poke and prod and pull and manipulate this implant, you can grab any one of these little axes and drag it right in place. If you want to tilt things right in the situation here, you can go ahead. But you'll also notice that I have two-dimensional views over here that I'm looking at on this particular configuration, the screen configuration here. By the way, we can change that screen configuration just by clicking on the Change Layout button. If I change the layout, it's going to change automatically to the panoramic mode. If I hit it again, it will give me kind of a combining of the 2D and the 3D presentation here for us to take a look. When I click it again, it goes back to the way it was originally. You notice that the default is not for this density checkbox to be checked. This density checkbox pulls in an additional little planning tool for you where it shows the Hounsfield units surrounding that implant. and kind of shows you on a scale of red being pretty soft to blue being pretty hard or white being real hard, what the surrounding tissue is like for this particular implant. So you can see that we're in some pretty squishy stuff here on at least one aspect of that. But fear not, because we're not really in place yet. We can use this as a tool or not. If you uncheck it, that density goes away, and it gives us another perpendicular view to this one to let us know how we're doing angle-wise. All right, key to taking a look at this two-dimensional look here is to notice this A and B flag. The A and B flag is shown right on the implant. You can see A and B are clearly labeled here, so that in 3 dimensions you get a kind of a lay of the land. You understand what's going on. This looks like a top view, but that's not really the whole truth right now. What we're looking at is could be construed as an axial view, but it's the axis of the they're perpendicular. These planes are perpendicular to the long axis of the barrel of the implant. So if I grab this little flag and raise it up and down, you can see that this plane here represents what this line is showing us. So we can go all the way down until we get to the canal and all the way up through the barrel of the implant up into the space between the teeth and so on. So this is this view that we're looking down on top. So I can go ahead and grab this, manipulate this, and that is basically our top of the implant view. Now the A and B line here are showing us basically the orientation of this flag. So if I grab this flag and twist it so it's essentially running the long axis of the alveolar crest here, then I've got kind of a cross-sectional view of our crest itself, the bone that's in between the implant and the surrounding teeth. And this is 90 degrees to that. So if I start twisting this the other way, we'll be looking exactly from the opposite direction here. All right, so you kind of understand how this works. Now if I go ahead and bump my implant here, it brings up a widget that allows us to adjust the angle of the tilt of that within that particular aspect. If I click on this one, I get a different angle. So we have the ability to manipulate this, move it up and down, left and right, buccolingual, mesial distal, if you will, so that we can locate our implant in space. This is not taking off a lot of time. You can see the severity of the undercut here. It's a dodgy thing putting this implant in here without violating the buccal plate, but the software makes it super easy to be able to visualize whether that's actually happening or not. I've got my implant essentially kind of where I would like to have it right now. If I bring the bone rendering in, we can see that there's just a tiny little bit of this projecting out of the, blowing through the bone here. And so that buccal plate is going to be a problem in this particular instance. So what can we do? Well, we can move this a little bit more lingual and see if that helps us. You can see that this bone is kind of soft. Let's bring our density back up again. See how this is looking now. We've got mostly green. So you can see that we're in a little bit better shape here as far as the condition of this tissue from what we looked at before. We want to take a good solid look at this. One of the beautiful things about the InVivo software is the ability to do this cut. And by the way, if this move widget ever becomes distracting or an irritant to you while you're working, this little tool up here will get rid of it immediately. the flag still stays there so that we can see the orientation of the views that we're looking at any given time. Now I want to take a look at how this implant is located relative to the bone. So what I'm going to do is enable clipping, and I'm going to clip to my implant. And this is kind of neat because we can take a look at this from any number of different locations, but as we track around, we are constantly going to be cutting perfectly to the long axis of that implant barrel. So we can alter our view here and take a look at the surrounding bone, see exactly how the tissue around it relates to the barrel of that implant. All right, so we can see that we've got, you know, a pretty fair amount of cortical bone that we're going into, but it's not awfully stout down here in the bottom. But it looks like the implant that we're using might be pretty good, strong integration once it's in there. And we have avoided perforating our buccal plate with this now. So we come around and see that that bone wraps around. You know, the other obvious choice is to fill the undercut area with some filler, Bondo, and do some kind of bone graft there. But this looks like this one will take. Now, when we take a look at our implant in place here, we've got a reasonable angle to it. But you know, ultimately, we're going to need to check that by putting a restoration in place. How do you do that? Well, InVivo software has the ability to add a single tooth restoration here. It's going to pop a sample restoration right in place here. It's going to pop it right on top here. It's not necessarily in the right spot. It's not necessarily the right width. Let's bring the other surrounding teeth in here, and we can use the height scale to make this a little bit more like the teeth around it, and we'll make the width scale to be a little bit more like how it's got to be in order to fit in there. And we can take a look at how this restoration, you know, this is not the restoration, it's a restoration. And, you know, if you're somebody who has a milling machine in office, whether it be a CIREC or an E4D, you know, you have the means for making the restoration. Now, we're just putting a restoration to be a placeholder at this point. We want to find out whether the loads are concentrated in the right spot. We want to make sure that we don't have some kind of crazy abutment that needs to be custom manufactured, or that we've got weird angles that are going to interfere with the success of our implant. So you know, we could go ahead and push or pull or whatever we need to do with this particular restoration to get it so that it fits in occlusion with the other teeth. And in fact, we can go ahead and turn on, by checking this box down here that's labeled trajectory, we can see whether the forces are concentrated and driving in occlusion the way that we would like them to. And if they're not, we can move stuff around, or you know, make sure that we've got things to compensate for that. So that's the trajectory piece of this. Now, if I go back to the 3D viewing here, we can see how my tooth relates to the others around it. And we can see that, you know, we don't have an optimum situation here, that it would be nice to be able to move that tooth more facial and be able to match loads with this opposing crown better. So let's do that. Go back to our single tooth restoration. We'll move this more facial. drag it up just a tiny little bit here. I'll maybe actually do the height scale a little bit. Bring that back down to the gum line that we'd like. See where we're at on our 3D scale here. All right, now we can see we've got a weird angle, so we would like to ultimately move our implant so that we have the least amount of angle here on our abutment. You get the idea that we're able to manipulate this in many ways to fit the loads and to make our implant most likely to succeed here. Let's take a look at a couple of the other tools that are included here. You know, as before on other tabs, we've got the distance measurement here. This is 1-to-1, no need for calibration. So if we're measuring, we click one point, pull it out, and click another point, and that is 1-to-1. No need to calibrate. At any time you want to edit or change where leader lines are or anything, we go ahead and click on it. It turns red, and we're able to edit it, change it, move where the measurement is portrayed and so forth, and it will stay where you put it. If you want to get rid of it, you just click it so that it's highlighted. And delete it. The angle measurements, again, we click the one leg, click a vertex, click the other leg, and endpoint, and it shows you the dimension from the endpoints to the vertex and the included angle here. Get rid of it, click it so it's highlighted, and hit delete, and it'll go away. When we have all of our implants for the case set, we can automate the process of putting a report about that implant in a screenshot that includes the implant information and so forth in the patient gallery here. And all we need to do is click on the little pencil here, and it's called Create Summary. So if I click on that, my summary is going to be automatically placed in the gallery here. And let's take a look at implant 29 here. It's going to give me an automatic readout showing me which implant I've got, what length, what diameter, and the position that I've got it in. So it automates that particular process of making a screen capture for you. And if we've done multiple sites, if we've done a full implant case, or we're supporting a denture with implants and so forth, you hit that button once after you're done doing all of the implant planning, and it'll pop a separate screenshot for each implant that you've placed, giving the information about that particular implant. When we take a look at the different visibility check marks, there's a lot of things that will automate processes here. So if I click on profile only, it doesn't make the implant look like a picture of that implant barrel. It just gives you the outline. If we turn on and off the restoration within here, we can see how the abutment and implant relate to surrounding tissue. We can click on and off to kind of give a highlight of the tissue that's associated with our ounce field units density here. So if I click on this, this is showing you, the actual tissue that this represents is this shaded area here, right? If I can turn on and off the nerve here so that we can get that out of the way if we want to. again, the density is that Hounsfield unit thing. We can turn on or off the abutment, take that out of the picture here. We can turn on and off this long axis of the implant within the software here. And the trajectory, of course, is showing where the loads are concentrated. It's kind of a post that comes directly off the implant. All of these things are elements that we can use to streamline the workflow of our implant placements here. What I can't show you today is the stone model stuff. We don't have a model created out of a case for me to show you, but if you were working with Anatomage and had a stone model cast and you took an image of it and that was part of your case that you uploaded to InVivo, then when you were doing additional implant planning stuff, you could bring that model into view so that you could very easily see where the margin of the restoration is going to go according to the soft tissue that that patient had in place. A number of other neat features in here. We can turn on or off a grid for planning. This is centric to the implant barrel itself. So all of the measuring tools are showing you, regardless of how you've zoomed in or out, exactly the dimension from the dead center of that implant barrel there. And we can turn that on or off. Again, the information display is going to take labels off for making screenshots and so on, and this will toggle on or off your model visibility if you've got that in place. That's about all I've got for talking about the InVivo implant placement here today. I encourage you again to tune in the next program where we talk about the actual streamlining and tailor making this work for you by using this preferences setting to customize your own individual implant library and making it really sing for you. So please sign in next time around, register for that process right now. Thank you for your attention and hope that you'll attend future sessions.